right, we are live. We got everyone in the chat. Welcome, everyone. We are here today with Powerbang Gaming. As most of you guys know, go ahead and say hi.
What's up, family? How's it going? Shout outs to TheNest, man, for making a dope podcast for me to come on and flap my gums for a little bit.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, this is TheNest. Basically, the current focus of it is we'll be talking about mobile gaming. Right now is the main focus. For Powerbang, he is a content creator across. He used to play Clash of Clans, Brawl Stars, but now his main focus is with PUBG Mobile, as most of you guys know. I'm also going to turn down the music just a tad, it's a little bit loud. But yeah, so I wanted to start with that, actually, Powerbang. So we talked about this a little bit earlier before I started the stream. But you started originally with Clash of Clans. Is that the first game you started?
I did, man. I always kind of looked at YouTube as something that I was super interested in, just never really had subject matter for. Like, I've got a background. I mean, sure, we can talk about all that in a little bit, but got a background in marketing and all that fun stuff. But I didn't know what to do on YouTube. And then I started playing games with some friends. A lot of the same questions came in over and over. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'm tired of talking about the same thing every day to different people. So I made a video and put that online. And that was Clash of Clans. And then the rest kind of is history after that.
So when was that actually? Like, when did you originally start with YouTube?
2015. It's been just over 4 years. Looking at the date right now. So yeah, just over 4 years.
And Clash of Clans, I think, came out like 2010. Do you know? It was quite a
I want to say 2012.
2012. Okay.
Clash of Clans. I think I just turned 7.
So what? Just out of curiosity, what town hall were you at the time that you started?
When I started, I was Town Hall 1, my friend. Just like most people. But
I started YouTube.
When I quit, I was Town Hall 11. So I had, I think, 3 different accounts. I had a 10, I had 11, and I had a 9.
Oh wow.
When I left, Town Hall 9s were like the most fun to play in like war and stuff. So I kept that one around for sure. And then I actually had a Town Hall 8 as well. And then I think about it for content, doing stuff for the little guys.
Yeah, I just started getting back into Clash of Clans. I'm Town Hall 9, I think. Yeah, Town Hall 9, and I started like a month ago. I played like years ago, dude. But I didn't get back into it. All my friends were playing. But yeah,
sure. They've had a little bit of a renaissance the last few months, I'd say, to a year. They've had a lot of things kind of working in their favor. So it's cool to see. I mean, I'm still a fan of the people behind the game, the game itself, and of course the community. Who I definitely miss all those guys. And I hear your chance to come back. I don't know if that's likely, but at the same time, I appreciate the love.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the direction of PUBG Mobile, too, it's so hard to look back because PUBG Mobile is it's a train right now for sure. And so
it's huge, man.
Yeah, so that'd be another thing I wanted to talk about, too, is like PUBG Mobile, obviously the center of your channel. So the first thing I wanted to ask about that is just, well, let's take a step back. So the mobile platform as a whole, you've been doing mobile gaming on your channel since the conception of it. Talk to me about like why you decided mobile gaming and why you've kind of stuck with that with your channel, and is there just anything that you really enjoy about mobile or like things that separate it?
No, for sure. That's a great question, and it's something that I often ask myself, like, is this the right move? Is this the right choice to stay in this niche of mobile gaming? And it started out just kind of naturally, right? Like, I've always been into games my whole life. Started out, I'm dating myself a bit here, but on the Atari way back in the 80s, man, joystick and the whole works. But I've played pretty much every major system since, and I really found enjoyment in that, to the point where I was in college. I played baseball on a scholarship in college, and then I hurt my arm and had Tommy John surgery, and was essentially laid up in a brace or a caster, if you will. And I was like, what do I do? I've got this competitive drive. I want to compete. I want to do stuff. And that's when I found Counter-Strike on PC. And I got into that super heavily, to the point where I ended up being a pro, if you will. Esports at the time wasn't even a term. But this is like 2004, 2005 time frame. And I got into that super heavily, became one of the world's best snipers in Counter-Strike. This is before CSGO was a thing. But that was kind of like what really kind of, I guess, ignited my passion and fire for esports, because of the parallels, I think, with traditional sports and competition and whatnot. And so I found that really, really interesting. And it got to the point where I was like, yo, I probably should like join the workforce and like get a job and like, have some responsibilities and whatnot. So that was when I moved away from the console, away from PC. And then it was like the natural fit. I had some downtime at work. Mobile was, already in my hand. And then with the invention of smartphones and cool games to come out for those, it just kind of started to be a natural thing where I was playing more and more games on the phone. And then as, time goes on, they keep getting better and better. So the experience on a mobile device now was like a console experience back when I was playing consoles. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. So actually, out of curiosity too, was your name Powerbang back in the CS days, or was that a name that it wasn't? Oh, how did that name come about?
That was, God, when was that? Maybe 2009 time frame, 2010. I got the name Powerbang when I was playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. It was an MMO that came out on PC, and honestly, I was just looking for a change of pace, a different identity, a name change, because I always had these corny names because I was like 10, when I came up with most of them. I think my first, this is a good one. My first, what do you call it? Screen name, online handle, whatever, IGN, Tough Guy.
Tough Guy.
Watch out, everybody. Tough Guy. And what was it? Spelled TUFF of all things. So that was like when I was freaking 10 or 11. And then from there, I moved on to, it wasn't quite, XX Killer 69XX. It wasn't that, but I was Destroyer in all caps. That was what I became known as in Counter-Strike. But moving on to Powerbang, I was literally just sitting at the computer, had headphones on just like this, listening to some hard rock music, headbanging, whatever. And I was like, Powerbang, screw it, let's roll. And then it wasn't until later that I kind of understood some of the other, I guess innuendos that may come from the name. And I was just like, damn it, what did I do? But by then I was already kind of well known in multiple games, and I was just like, whatever, we just got to roll with it. So here we are. So
back in the CS days when you were Destroyer, was that the main name you had on CS?
Yeah, I was Destroyer, all caps.
Did you play
to emphasize dominance,
Oh yeah. Did you do any like actual like competition? Like you said you were one of the best snipers at the time, but were you playing in like competitions, possibly LANs or anything?
Yeah, there were some local LAN tournaments. I can't remember the name of all of them. A lot of stuff in the Northwest. Did a lot of stuff in like the Bellevue area. A lot of stuff in Portland, a lot of stuff in Seattle. We won most of those competitions because we were the best team in the Pacific Northwest. We played against, I guess, some of the more notable names that you guys probably would be familiar with. Complexity, which was just getting started. Like I was kind of watching as Jason Lake, the CEO, was literally getting out of his law career and starting up kind of as a passion project in esports org. And that was really kind of cool to see. And then at the time, Fraud was their best sniper, and we used to, go head to head. But one of my, I guess CPL, there used to be like Cyber Athlete Amateur League, Cal. And so I was in Cal I, which was like the 16 best teams in, I can't remember if it was North America or the world. I feel like there was some international. No, there wasn't. It was just North America. And so we had like leagues and stuff, which were really cool. I wish that was a thing still for like mobile. And that was some of the funnest, like, I guess, gaming interactions I've ever had was like the Cal leagues. And then CPL, I think we placed 5th at summer 2005. And I want to say Shroud Commando SK won that one. But yeah, man, lots of tournaments and such, most of them in the Northwest. But there wasn't a lot of online stuff happening besides the leagues at the time. Trying to remember some other stuff just from way back in the day that was kind of coming out, like 1G, the Club Summit 1G, that was just getting founded at the time. There's a lot of like corps with 1G rolling around on their name. But yeah, man, it was the golden era of gaming.
Oh yeah,
I'm just gonna call it that.
That's when I was playing like Mario Kart on the DS. I think that was my extent of gaming. Actually, a mobile gamer. Actually, now that I think about it, I was playing DSi mobile games. But yeah,
holy cow, that's true. They qualify. It's mobile.
Exactly. Was your teammates like, were they IRL friends, or were they people you met online, or was it kind of a mix, like local-ish people that you met online?
I was kind of a little bit of both. So like I played as a complete random. I worked my way up to Cal M, which was like the mid-tier, Cal Main. That was kind of like the mid-tier, really good players, but not like pro or like, even semi-pro. So I did that for a little bit, and then I was like, you know what? I'm kind of over it. I'm just gonna play Cal O, which was like an open division, really bad league, and I'm just gonna go basically pub stomp people with some buddies of mine locally. So I had some friends like in the same city. We were IRL friends, and we just kind of went around and smashed people online. And a lot of cheating accusations or whatever from people that can't play. But it got to the point where it was like, you know what? Let's go to a LAN tournament. Let's do something up in Bellevue. And which is Seattle area for those of you guys that aren't from Washington. I speak Bellevue because I know Hawks is from the area.
Yeah.
Anyways, we went up to the Seattle area, did a LAN tournament, and we played against the number one team from the region. and I think I dropped like 40 kills. It was like 20 per half or something insane. The rest of my team dropped like 1 or 2, maybe a piece. And so it was a really, really stellar showing. We lost. I think we lost almost every round, but I was making it close almost every single time, pretty much single-handedly. And these guys came up to me after the game, and they were just like, yo, dude, you're insane. And I'm like, oh, thanks, man. I tried my hardest, but you're really good. So it is what it is. Fast forward a few hours, we worked our way through the losers bracket. We ended up playing them again, and I did it again. I dropped like 35 or 40 kills a second time, and they were like, dude, what is this guy on? And because at the time there was a lot of online like cheating stuff going on, so if anybody like did it on LAN, it was you were a lot more likely to be looked at as like, yo, this dude's legit, like clearly he can play on LAN. So I got recruited by that team and kind of moved up in divisions at that point. And that was when I started like playing a little bit more seriously. But it kind of sucked to leave the IRL guys behind. They didn't really care though, because they weren't really trying to play super competitively.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really cool. So at the point that you kind of switched over to mobile gaming, as we talked about, you played some Clash of Clans, you did a little bit of Brawl Stars here and there. At what point did you decide, PUBG Mobile is my game? Because I remember actually I was looking at our older DMs, and you messaged me at one point saying, hey, is Ross any good? Which at the time was like the Battle Royale on mobile.
Yeah.
And I think it's right when PUBG Mobile dropped. So I know you kind of tried that a little bit, but what was the point where you decided, hey, PUBG Mobile, I'm going with it, like this is my game?
Sure, man. So like to kind of shed some light on like my thoughts as a creator and as a player of these games, like I played Clash of Clans joined in 2015, played through 2018. So I was in it like 3 years at the time. Mm-hmm. And for those of you guys that are in the Clash universe and remember, like that was a very, very stale time in the game. A lot of outcry publicly about, yo, why aren't you guys updating? Why aren't you doing new features? Why is there, it was a bunch of frills and stuff around like builder base and things that personally I didn't really care about. So the game got really stale for me, really boring. And as a strategy guy or somebody that's more like on the higher level of play, that's not necessarily, well, now I'm more entertainment, but like at the time I was like the, top strategy guy that was making videos. Mm-hmm. I'd already covered everything, it was like I'd already done every like queen walk guide, every this or that attack strategy. And I was like, I don't like covering the same things over and over and over for views or for content or whatever. So I got like kind of bored from a creative standpoint. And I was looking at my, my interests or whatever. And it was like, man, I've always had fun playing shooter games. I've always been like a very tactical, like mind in games. I like positioning. I like, how to maneuver and that type of thing more so than just shooting. And so I started looking into the games that were continuing to come out on mobile. Ross had come out, I want to say in like September or November of 2018. And that was looking really, or maybe 2017, excuse me. Yeah. And I was like, dude, that looks like a lot of fun. I was watching guys like you, Noah, Seven Worlds, like all you guys were like slaying Ross. And I was like, dude, this looks dope. So I started playing it on stream, which was a lighter commitment for me because I've always been a VOD first guy, YouTube first guy. Mm-hmm. And anything that comes to that channel, like I want to make sure that I'm not just doing like a one and done type of thing. I want to make sure that it's something I want to continue with. So I kind of tested out the stream audience and been like, yo guys, what do you think? And remember, like Clash of Clans and Supercell, like it's a completely different genre of games. It's not shooters. It's not, so I was like, I have no idea how this is going to convert or if people are going to like it. And it got to the point where Rules of Survival, I was playing it on stream. Everybody was really enjoying the content. Everybody was enjoying like my reactions, the game, etc. And I was like, I'm going to start making videos on this. And so I was late to the game, right? Like I was 7-8 months late to making ROS videos. There was already people like Noah who were blowing up, pulling in 5,000 subs a day or more. And I'm just like, dude, this is insane. Like the growth that people are seeing in ROS. And then I heard PUBG, which is very similar in nature, battle royale, shooter, etc., with amazing branding behind it. A huge, well-known, PC game is coming to mobile, and it's not just a port; it's its own experience. Yeah. I was like, yo, I could get behind this, right? And I'll be the first person in. So I played it once to like get a feel for if it was a good game, and it was really solid. And I was like, I'm all in, dude. I want to change the pace from a content perspective. I want to enjoy like what I'm making. And once I figured out like, yes, I can have fun with this, I was just like all ahead full and just kind of put my faith in that, I'd be able to make something of it. And, it paid off for sure.
Yeah. And actually one thing you just talked about too, being the first one in it, I think that's one of the biggest things too that really helps like someone's success in the game is getting that head start. So with PUBG Mobile, is that the first game you really got like you're in, or with Brawl Stars did that kind of happen and just nothing really panned out? But was PUBG Mobile the first game you really got like a head start in?
Yeah, so like Clash of Clans, that was something that, you know, I ended up working my way into like the Clash inner circle. Like I'm a very like savvy business minded person. So like I typically can, you know, network my way or like I can make things happen, right? Like I'm a mover and shaker. I get things done. However, you know, it's a huge uphill climb. Like when you're working with a developer or a game company and they've already got their favorites, right? They've already got their people. They've already got their boys that they're, you know, pushing out there and promoting. And, you know, the Chief Pats, the Galadons, the Clash with Cams, you know, Godson, like all these guys that were there established and also had millions of subscribers. And I'm like, I've got 5, you know, and it was just like, I'm really cool though. I promise, you know, like, so I'm trying to like sell myself or whatever as like, you know, can I, you know, the hustle, right, of a small creator trying to get a spotlight shined on you, however you can make that happen, right? And so that's kind of the struggle of what I was working with in Clash of Clans. And I was probably 2 to 3 years after some of those main guys started making content. So I was way, way behind. Fast forwarding to Brawl Stars coming out in beta. That was in June of 2017. And I was like, holy cow, like, dude, this game's super fun. I'm a fan. I also have the opportunity to be first, right? I'm on the first wave this time instead of like being late to the game. So I was like, yo, I'm going to do this. I'm also really, you know, for me, anything that I play on the channel, like I really want to enjoy the content. I want to make sure that it's like something I'm truly like, you know, having fun with. Cause I feel like, you know, that's the name of the game, right? Like you know, if you're going to spend your time doing something, make sure it's something that you're passionate about or having fun with.
Yeah.
But Brawl Stars, the beta process, it went for an eon, an eternity. And I was like, yo, I'm making content right now on a game that 80% of my audience, which is like Android, you know, mobile users at the time, you couldn't play on Android. And the whole comment section was up in arms about, dude, Android, #Android is never coming. And so it was like a riot every time I put out a video. So I was like, this sucks. I don't want to piss people off with my content. So it got to the point after I think 10 or 11 months of covering the game and still no end in sight as far as like the beta process. I was just like, you know what? I'm tapping out, man. I'm tapping out. I'll be back later when this thing goes global. If this thing goes global, I had no idea what the plan was because Supercell is a notorious game killer. I think they've created 20 to 25 games to the point of like you know, an alpha to the point where it's a playable, and they've only launched 5. So it's you know, there's an 80% chance that this thing's going to get killed. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to bank my channel's success, my future on a game that's, you know, 4 out of 5 chance of getting killed. And coincidentally, at that exact same time was when I was dabbling in the shooter genre, and that's when PUBG Mobile started to take off. And so I was there on the forefront of that. Clearly, that paid dividends, and it still is. But it was like, I can't go back now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but it's also it's so successful. Like, why would I want to throw a wrench into the wheel, you know, and potentially derail what I have going on? So that's kind of like the thought process behind it.
Yeah. So Ferg actually wanted me to ask a question.
Hit me up.
How long did it take you? How long did it take you to actually find success with PUBG Mobile? Because obviously, when you started, I imagine like, as you said, you were coming from Supercell Games, so your audience was kind of hard to transition over. So how long was the period of like growth, and like when did you really feel like, okay, now I'm doing well and my channel's actually like sustainable on PUBG Mobile?
That's a great question. Like, so let's rewind in history here. I'm trying to think back of like my first few videos, right? Like for me, I went into it with the mindset of like, yo, I'm going to have a couple months where I'm just going to have crappy views. I'm going to have crappy performance. And I'm okay with that because I'm doing what I want to do and I'm doing what I feel is going to be viable down the road. So it was like having faith, right? Like just like, yo, I'm going to be okay. I have conviction in what I'm doing. I know that, you know, I'm ultimately making the right decision. And then operating off of that, I was expecting probably 1 to 2 months of subpar views, you know, not quite hitting the marks that I was in Clash of Clans. And so that's what I was expecting going into it. Started making content and I put it out there. And I think my first and second videos did almost what my Clash of Clans videos were doing. First ones, of course, received a bunch of hate. Yo, what are you doing? This is not, you know, your normal content. This isn't what I subbed for. All that stuff. I'm like, yo, it's that's cool, guys, but like, yo, I'm still gonna double upload. So I did the double upload thing for like a month, and I was planning on as long as it takes, right? Like, I'll grind the hell out of this. I want to introduce the new game as a staple on the channel, and ultimately, if the audience will have it, like, I'd love to make that the primary focus. And so that actually happened quicker than I anticipated. It took less than a month to really kind of surpass what I was doing in Clash of Clans before.
A month?
The audience, less than a month. So it was like, it was the audience was surprisingly receptive. And here's what I estimate happened. And again, I have no factual data to back this up, but I can speak from my own experiences and like what I saw in my audience and the feedback that I see in the comments and all of that. PUBG Mobile is in the Battle Royale genre. The Battle Royale genre, I feel, is a very compelling genre to watch as a viewer because it has a very tangible and relatable storyline throughout every single game. Every game is different. You don't know what's going to happen, but you've got like the early game where there's that excitement, that tense, like very, gut-wrenching sometimes, like loot up process where it's like you're scrambling and establishing for position. You can treat it very strategically and go, kind of cold drops out in the middle of nowhere, play it safe, or like I prefer going to the hot drops and try to just slay out. And then, for the content, man, like I'm trying to get those banger clips like as much as I possibly can, and dropping hot is super fun. So that becomes super exciting to watch. And then you've got the buildup of mid game, the strategy. So you're like engaging those people that are like really wanting to get into like positioning and movement and timing and all that type of stuff, circle position. And then you get into like the climax of a game where it's like, you're at the end, the circle's closing, there's X amount of teams left, and it's like every man for himself. And you've got that natural climax at the end of every game. It's like a freaking mini movie. And so I remember back in like 2016, 2017 timeframe when PUBG on PC first launched. And I remember as a viewer, like I'm extremely busy. Like anybody that knows me knows how busy I am. Like I don't watch like content, right? Like for enjoyment, just because I'm too busy either making my own, helping other people, et cetera, et cetera. But I found myself being really captivated by PUBG specifically. And I would sit and watch Dr. Disrespect and the Shrouds. And like, I would literally be watching their games like, dude, not only like from the entertainment value of the streamer, but the game itself is captivating, right? Like I'm enjoying myself. And so that was what kind of clued me into the fact that, hey, like I think there's something here that people will want to see. And then so transitioning to when I moved it onto my channel, the audience in the comments were like, yo, Powerbang, I don't even play this game, but hell, it's super fun to watch. So I'm down. Like consider me, on board moving forward. And that's kind of the way it trended, which I mean, ideal world, of course, but it literally took 3 to 4 weeks, and I was kind of off and running with a genre that was performing better than my traditional content of the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another thing with that too is like the Battle Royale genre, as you were talking about, it's so easy to watch because the concept of it is stay alive as long as possible or, get as many kills. So it's very like, it's just simple to follow. Like my parents will watch my videos sometimes and they're like, I don't really get what's going on, but like we get what you're doing. Like in competition, they're like, all right, we know if you're alive or not. Like it's pretty simple to follow the Battle Royale genre. And I think with Fortnite too, that's why that kind of blew up, because it had like this more like cartoony feel and people were able to like get into it. But yeah, so I agree with you for sure on the aspect of Battle Royales being very simple to watch.
Absolutely. And I like the parallel of like, for those that don't understand it or asking questions about it, you're like, yo, it's Hunger Games on video games.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
If you've seen the Hunger Games, dude, last one alive, you want your district to be winning. And, that's kind of the approach that I take to Battle Royale. And another thing that I really like about the genre is like the freedom that you have as a player to really engage with the content in the game, how you choose. You can treat it, you can be that slithery, stupid snake that's like just out in the middle of nowhere in mid game. Ready to mow people down at the knees. Like that could be your gig, man. And like, I hate you for it, but at the same time, you're free to do that, right? You can be that guy that hot drops and tries to play aggressively. You can play super passively. You can just troll around and use stupid weapons if you want. There's a million different ways to like have fun with the game and make content around it. And that's one of the things that, I find is super fun as a creator is like, you never feel like you've done everything. Like there's always more stuff that you can try or like combinations that you can do to like try to make entertaining stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So you're talking about how you transitioned over to PUBG Mobile, and I just wanted to ask, it's kind of a hard question. In what way do you think having experience with Clash Royale and Brawl Stars, how do you think that kind of helped you build up your channel for PUBG Mobile in terms of like quality? Like you had all this equipment, I imagine, when you moved into PUBG Mobile. So when people were looking up the game and found your channel, immediately they were like, this guy has quality, you know, his videos are good. Like, what kind of experience do you think you learned, and what kind of skills did you build on previous games that transitioned over and helped with your success in PUBG Mobile?
That's a good question. A lot of the skills that I had from a just raw like output standpoint, I came into YouTube with. So like I have a background in marketing, SEO, website development, graphic design. Like it's like the perfect storm of like skills to be able to self-produce and, you know, handle everything that you need to be successful on YouTube or on content creation. I can handle it all in house and I don't need to like look elsewhere for it. So I had that kind of coming in, but I learned so much about production, about video editing, about software, about equipment. Over the course of 2 to 3 years, I learned what I didn't like in production. I learned what I did, things that annoyed me. The biggest thing I think was processes to save time. Like how can I streamline my production process to like, you know, hey, I'm going to record in this way, or I'm going to do my overlays in this way to save on the edit. There was a period of time in Clash of Clans where I got so adept at like OBS and like, you know, pre-planning my episodes that I wouldn't need to edit at all. Like I'm to the point with like, that's another thing I did was public speaking and like, you know, actually talking on stage to thousands of people. So it was like, you know, speaking to an audience for me is comfortable. It doesn't make me nervous. And, you know, doing it in a room, like, you know, to however many people are watching at any given time, it's fine, you know? So that kind of skill set coming in, I was good. I was comfortable. But then learning like, yo, I can do this in one take and like put out a vid. And so I did that in a while for Clash of Clans, but then it's like you're always trying to up your game, right? Like you do something a certain way for a few months and then you look at what you're doing, and whether it's like your own criticism of your own content or whether you're inspired by others, you look at something that somebody else is doing somewhere. It's like, wow, I really like the way so-and-so like did this with whatever. And it's like you might add a transition or like just something really basic, right? And so like the period of like getting into the creation game, having some experience, like you learn so much, but you also kind of build upon the foundation that you have to start with. And some people like you have to like reach out and like acquire those skills, make the relationships that you need to make in order to like build the foundation. But then after that, it's like, okay, you're adding to it. And then eventually like you have this like, you know, really substantial like structure that you've built. And it's like, wow, this is really cool. So I feel like it was a process, and I feel like every day is something that you can learn and do better than the day before. And I don't think that I'm anywhere near like, you know, I'm not over 9,000 yet. Let's put it that way. Still a lot to do, a lot to learn.
Yeah, for sure. Also, we have a question coming in from Ducky the Gamer, our past guest.
Sick.
He said, how often does it take you to record, or how often does he have to record to get enough content for clips or a video? Yeah,
it's a great question, and it's also a sore subject right now, bro. So thanks for picking that, Scab. Last 2 nights, I've actually played for 4 hours last night, and I played for 3 hours the night before for the sole purpose of trying to make a video. Didn't happen. I was like, I'm not going to put out like crap content.
Yeah, I've had that.
That I you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to put out a bad game or a something that I felt was lackluster. I had a few like really good starts where it was like 13 kills. Like I wiped 3 squads off the drop at Novo yesterday, I think, or maybe the day. I don't know. I get my days mixed up, but you know, sometimes I'll record for a long time and it just doesn't happen. And there's days like that where I'm just having an off day. And like lately I've been having a lot of stuff, you know, going on in the personal life as well, taking my focus away from gaming and content. So really it's like the last thing on my mind right now. And you know, when I sit down to like bang out some content, I'm like, yo, let's get a video real quick. And then I'm out. I gotta go hang out with my kids. I gotta do this or that. Right. So that's kind of my focus. And like, honestly, like when I'm not locked in, really kind of dialed up, ready to play, like a lot of times the games don't go as I would like. And I mean, I think a lot of it's kind of interconnected, you know, it's just like your overall vibe and your overall mood. But when everything's cool, everything's good, you know, normally I would say like 1 out of every 4 to 5 games is probably like YouTube worthy. And I don't do a ton of montages, just because honestly, like file storage and archival of footage is very difficult. And Hawks, you know this, you just did some montages, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy to do that regularly and also upload daily. So that's a big limitation there. And I do have editing help now that I'm going to try to do more of that, you know, moving forward, more montage stuff, more hard hitting, you know, bass thumping, you know, clips that are bangers. But yeah, man, it's hit or miss. And every once in a while though, I'll have a stream, like I'll be streaming and I'll have 4 games in a row that are freaking 30 kill game, like just bangers. Right. And it's like, well, there's my content for the whole week. You know, it's done. Yeah. So you just never know, man.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one thing too that's beautiful about streaming is like you can just get that, like, it's kind of, I guess it's different between games, but like when I'm streaming, it's kind of like a 2-part thing. I'm both streaming and like getting content out there then, and then I also have the potential for getting like future uploads. Whereas like sometimes I'll sit down to record or just practice. So actually, like when I play most of the time, it's not for the purpose of recording a video, it's to practice because I'm preparing for competition. Unless I'm streaming and then I actually have to like get that personality on. But like every time I imagine you record, you're actually like commentating and stuff. So how does that get tiring ever to like sit down and just commentate and not really be able to like not talk, play? Because I imagine that's what you do, right? Just like commentate all the time.
No, 100%. And that's something that's the hardest thing about, like, for me, it's not necessarily hard, but it's hard to like try to give people what they want, right? Because the audience in Battle Royale is incredibly demanding and they're incredibly like, I don't know how to describe it, man. They like they want everything, right? Like they, you know, for example, you're streaming, they want you to read 100% of the comments and reply to all of them. But dude, if you get earholed because you weren't watching the screen, like you're a terrible player and you suck and you're a noob and you should die in a fire.
This is so true.
It's like, like what the hell, man? You know, like, what do you want me to do here? So it's very difficult to try to divide your time successfully to try to like focus on the things that are important to you. So for me, like, I just focus on having fun, like, try to like literally just make clips and cool content. Like I don't care about wins, I don't care about stats, I don't care about any of it. Like I could play the game at a high level, and I did at the start kind of. You know, I played, I think, like with my team that I had, you know, it was like I would step in and I would play, I would hold my own, I would do just fine. There's a lot of games where I'd be MVP, you know, and it's like I don't have any desire to do that personally. Like my goal is like I'm a content creator, right? Like that's what I do for a profession, for a career, and I've got, you know, a wife and 3 kids that depend on me to earn an income doing this. So like you know, throwing my hat in the ring to go participate in some random online tournament like doesn't appeal to me. Like sure, I know there's a lot of people that would want to see that or whatever, but like that's not my priority, and I know it's not going to get me where I need to go in my career. So it's something that I just don't spend my time doing because my time's so limited as is. So again, just kind of focusing on the things that I have fun with and things that I feel like, you know, could be fun for the people watching. But yeah, it's too hard to do everything, man. You can't be the best player in the world and also the best entertainer and the best, you know, producer, and the, you know, it's very, very difficult. So that's the thing that I struggle with the most, is like trying to please as many people as possible. You know, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, so, and you're talking also about having a family too. So for me, I have a family obviously, but I don't have like kids or a wife or anything. So I'm able to dedicate a lot of time to creating content and playing and all that. But obviously with the family, how have you seen balancing, you know, having a normal life and spending time with the kids and wife? How have you kind of figured out how to balance that with gaming? And what are some things that like you'd recommend to people that do have a family and want to get into content or pro gaming or anything? Is there anything that you'd like to touch on or give advice on?
Sure, man. I'm still figuring that out, man. It's a ongoing process, and it's something that I haven't always done well. You know, like for me, there's always been a ton of opportunities and things to go do, events to host, trips to make, you know, this or that to cover, streams to do, podcasts to go on. Like there's always something happening, right? And I feel like a lot of times I'm getting to the point where it's like I just have to say no. You know what I mean? To try to like, you know, prioritize what's important to me, because at the end of the day, like I got into this A, because I love it, but B, because I'm providing for my family, and that's like my number one goal and motivation personally. And like I won't BS you, man. Like a lot of times I lose sight of that fact, where I get swept up in either the grind, the pressure, the stress, the success. Like there's a lot of things that come with this, you know, as you kind of get bigger, and it's like, man, you know, you can lose track of what's important. So like I always kind of, I guess, would recommend to people like getting into it, like remember like why you're doing what you're doing. keep, the priorities that you have, as priorities, and, make sure that, you're keeping your human relationships strong off platform and offline, because at the end of the day, that's all we really have. But as far as like balancing, content and like doing this as a profession, having a schedule, having a certain time slot that you do certain activities, trying to like keep things within reason, because it's so easy in this game to just grind and take pride in the grind and be like, yo, haha, I don't sleep. That's not really healthy. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy. Like, I see a lot of people saying like, yo, I was up all night doing this or that. And, I respect the hustle. I do, because I've been there and I've lived that life, and, I'm still there, but I'm also trying to carve out more time for me to like make myself better as a person, to be a better husband, to be a better dad. And dude, I'm not there yet, but it's definitely a goal and a priority of mine.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of the biggest things for content creators that have families. So I still do have a family, and oftentimes I'll find myself like not doing my chores or whatever, like on the lower end of things, just not doing responsibilities that I have because I'm so focused on the grind. So I definitely feel you there on that point. Like, it's tough to balance when you feel, especially when you feel like what you're doing is to provide. So I'm not personally providing, but I feel like if I'm able to grow successful, I can provide for my family. So I still do have kind of that intrinsic motivation. So I definitely get what you're saying there. Like,
you got your career in front of you, man. Like, you have something that you could create for yourself. You know what I mean? And like, there's definitely a lot of that going on. And like, one of the changes that I've made, I mean, I'm sure the audience has noticed too, like, I have stopped caring when it comes to putting out a video every single day. Like, if it's too much, or if it's like gonna impact something else in my life, like negatively, I just won't, like, I'm just like, listen, I'll get it tomorrow. And like, clearly I'm not trying to like go weeks and weeks without uploading or anything like that, but like, dude, if I miss an upload now and again, like, dude, the world goes on. Like, I'm sure I'm hurting my own progress and growth to an extent, but I also want to try to maintain like, proper mental health, physical health, and like, clearly those are both things that I need to work on. But at the same time, it's like, if you don't prioritize those things and make them, purposeful, you're going to lose sight of it. Because like, I can stack up 30 hours of work every single day that I can do, or that I have to go on, and I can never, ever see the end of it, never see the light of day. And that's something that I've been guilty of in the past, is like literally just working too hard. So I've made a conscious decision over the past like 6 months or so, like, listen, if it gets to be too much, or if like things aren't happening, or like the game's just not cooperating, oh well, get it tomorrow. And so trying to be like okay with like letting it go, whereas before I would feel so much stress and pressure and like, oh my god, my channel's dying, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care that much anymore. And like, honestly, my videos, I think, have performed a little bit better sometimes because of that, where it's like, listen, I'm not putting out some piece of garbage just to get out a video. Yeah, I feel that for sure. Like, with my channel, I was at a point where I'd see content creators just like, they'd take the best game of the day or whatever and upload it, no matter like how not good it was. And for me, I was always like, I don't want to upload something that viewers will watch and then not want to come back to in the future. So I do think it's beneficial to have that pride in your content, to where you feel like every upload you're happy with, and then also being able to balance your time as well and do other things and live your life, and not just say, hey, I need to like do this now, and kind of I don't want to say put it off, because that makes it sound bad, but like, balance it is the best way to put it. Balance is hard, man. And that's a struggle, I think, in every career, in every family, and every individual. I think balance is always a struggle. Like, some people are fortunate to be just like very in tune with like, relationships and balance and, responsibilities, and just really be well-rounded. But I think most of us, especially as gamers, man, I think a lot of us can relate to that struggle, where it's like we feel like we're letting people, or our parents or whatever, down in certain aspects, and it's just like, dude, it's tough. So it's like, for me, like, that's a big part of like my year this year, is just like focusing on like being a better person, and like trying to be present and responsible, and like all of these things. It's like, yo, I'm clearly older than you, and probably older than most of the people watching, but it's like an ongoing struggle of, like, it's constantly something to work on. So it's, for those that are younger out there watching, like, make your priorities early on, and try to stick to them, and create like healthy habits. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. So yeah, reeling back to PUBG Mobile a little bit now too. Yeah.
So earlier you were talking about you have your team Lights Out, and you don't really do competition personally. But how has it been for you in terms of the competitive side of PUBG Mobile for casting, owning a team, playing with some pro players? Like, what have you seen with the PUBG Mobile pro scene that you both like and dislike? Or just
There's not a ton that I dislike, honestly. I mean, like, honestly, most of the people are pretty chill. It's been a very opening and accepting community for the most part. Like, of course, you got your bad apples, but you do in every group of people.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, community as a whole, really solid, good group of people. Like, I've got, relationships with people that have moved on either from Lights Out, or like I don't necessarily associate with them anymore, like on a professional level, but like we still respect each other. We'll still say what's up. So like, yeah, man, overall, really like the community. We've been generally pretty accepting of other games creators and such as well, ROS, Fortnite, etc. Like, yo, let's do this or let's do that, or like when a new game comes out, whether it's Cyber Hunter or Call of Duty or whatever, we're like teaming up and trying to help people out and whatnot. And that's been really cool, and like, I guess a source of pride, because like one thing that I feel is not a responsibility of mine, but like I feel is kind of one of the figureheads of a community. Like, I try to instill just a positive vibe, positive outlook, like, do unto others, like just be kind to people.
Yeah.
And I don't tolerate like any BS in my streams and my YouTube comments. Like, I'm very quick with the ban hammer. A lot of people know that. And a lot of people like, think it's BS, or like I'm trying to, control like what people are saying. It's like, no, it's not that. Like, I'm trying to set an example. Like, listen, if you're going to come in and be a turd and just start like, cussing me out the first second like we've met, like, I have no time for you in my life. You're gone. And, like if there's less severe things that are happening where I can educate people and be like, yo, we don't do that. Like, I'm not trying to be your dad, but like, come on. Like, there's so much crap that happens online and on the internet in general because people feel like they're protected from their anonymity. I don't agree with a lot of it. And like, for me, I try to be somebody that has, I guess solid values, or, I guess an outlook on what things should be like, and just try to be a decent human being as much as possible and try to influence others to be the same. So that's one of the things with the community. I feel like overall has, we've done a decent job with that. Now, the pro team, a lot of fun. A lot of people have noticed that like we haven't been super loud on social media, not super active. Like, I'm personally backing off a lot of the pro, stuff that I'm doing. I'm not going to get super into the weeds on that because I haven't officially put out a statement or anything, publicly, but like, we've lost some people, and I've also like, it's kind of a mutual thing. Like, it's like, yo, dude, like I get it, but like this also hasn't really worked out for me the way I would have liked either. Like, not in any one case. Like, I'm not trying to call out individuals or talk about specific people. But generally speaking, as a team owner, there's a lot of stuff that comes from, chasing people around, trying to do this or that. And like, it's hard with younger people and kids, specifically. I want to build something with a bunch of like-minded people that, are mature, that have experience. And I'm not sure that's fair to ask of people that don't have, experience, or, are trying to do something for the first time. So, it was never something for me that I was looking to profit off of. Like, I wasn't making any money from Lights Out. I wasn't intending to pay myself from that. It was more of a long-term passion project that, ultimately, if I was able to build it to something that, might be acquired in part or whole by a professional organization, which are jumping into the space more and more, that was kind of like my long-term, like, exit strategy to like actually profit from. But the ongoing, process of running the org was never looking to make any money, and it was never about me or anything like that. So, at the end of the day, I'm looking at, building an org takes a lot of, I guess, personal capital, where I'm transitioning a lot of the exposure and, the influence that I have personally under the Powerbang Gaming brand. I'm essentially giving that to other people and being like, yo, here is, an audience, here's a platform, here's a career, do your thing, man. And, have fun with it. And at the end of the day, that hurts me, potentially. If it's not, if it's to the point where people are like, yo, thanks, peace, Yeah, that
100%.
hurts me because I've just given away a percentage of my following, and I've created fans of new people that would have never surfaced and never seen the light of day. So it's like having that realization, like I'm cool with that. Like I'm good to do it, but again, it only makes sense if these people are around you for the long term, And that was something that I was realizing, that even with contracts in place, like I don't ever want to trap somebody into being where they don't want to be. I don't want to like work with somebody that doesn't want to work with me, and vice versa, right? Like it's got to be like a mutual good thing. And so I find that the grass is always greener. Wherever you're at in business, in teams, and wherever, like relationships, even, somewhere else always is better or has it better. And that's something that's just like, man, I don't know if that's an argument that can really be won, nor do I care to have. And so that's kind of where I find myself like, do I really want to pursue this as aggressively as I have been? Or do I want to focus on building my brand, which is something that I haven't had any difficulty with or struggles with or anything like that. So that's kind of been the direction that I've taken the last few months.
Yeah, and I feel like with owning an organization too, or a team, it takes a lot of time too, as well, as you obviously know. And then I've seen you guys, you have the jerseys, the hoodies, you have the merch, you have the social medias, you have all these things that take time and often money too. And I just feel like if you're not able to really get a return on it, it's hard to justify as well. Not just because like
100%.
You need to make money, but because you need to be able to have a return on investment in a way.
No, absolutely. And I mean, if I'm being real, like if I look at like the cost of players, the cost of branding, video stuff, building websites, setting up merch, pre-purchasing merch, like all that stuff, like at the end of 1 year, like I'm looking at like $100,000 out of my own pocket, no sponsors, no whatever, to get this up and going in order to like give people a platform and a career.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm spending that money myself. And it's like, I take a step back and I'm like, why? I don't need it, like I don't need to build a team or, build up all these other people. But like, I do want to do that because like, I want to personally have like a stream team. I want to have like a crew of people that I play with. And like, so I'm thinking about kind of going that direction and having like a community that's way more casual, way less competitive, and just kind of do things for the content, for the relationships, and not because of either chasing a career or climbing the ladder, so to speak. But yeah, man, it's like it's tough, because you look at like ROI, like you want to see something, but like for me, like I'm happy to spend the money, like if it's like something we can all like do together, grow together, work together. But I just didn't feel like it was kind of going that way. So I'm just at the point where everybody's kind of finishing out tournaments right now, and I'm sure announcements will be made in the future as far as what everybody's plans are.
Yeah, for sure. Now, kind of going back to about you casted in, I think it was Dubai, right? Was it for the Star Challenge?
Yeah, I've done a few tournaments for PUBG. One in Shanghai, one in Dubai.
Wow. So is that the two you've done
LA.
for PUBG? LA as well?
Yeah, I've done LA twice, one in Dubai and one in Shanghai. So I've done like 4 big events for PUBG. One was the Player Well-Known Invitational, which was like the first big tournament that PUBG Mobile had. That was in Shanghai, China. And that was kind of like influencers and then some people that they chose. And that's where things kind of got weird with my org specifically. We were kind of split. Like it sucked because it was an opportunity for us to kind of make a name for ourselves. And that's the thing that's the hardest. Like I don't want to let Lights Out go or die or anything like that, because like the brand is so strong. Like everybody knows who we are, and like there's like, I mean, I don't ever want like my fans or fans of Lights Out to be hateful or toxic or go to other people and talk a bunch of crap. Like that's not like what I'm about or what I want the brand to be about. But at the same time, like I do see that on occasion. Like there's definitely like passionate people that are like that love Lights Out, and I'm like, that's crazy that we built something that people care that deeply about. And so it's like that right there makes me not want to like let it fade, so that's kind of why I'm like, okay, how do we move forward? So part of it is kind of making a clean transition from where we're at now, and then we'll kind of roll out a plan moving forward from that. But back to like tournaments and such, did Shanghai Player Well-Known Invitational, which was cool. Had an opportunity to go there and cast that. China was awesome. One of the cooler places that I've been. Very different from the West, just the culture in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Everything, dude, it was insane. Like the progressive, like digital nature of their economy, like blew my mind. Like I was just like, so many things were so easy, and I think part of it is because it has to be, because of the fact that there's 25 million people that live in one city, all over the place, and so part of it has to be. But the other half of me is like, dude, why are we in the U.S. not like on this level yet? Like there's so many conveniences and things that are happening that blew my mind. And then so did some qualifiers for the what was it called, Star Challenge. Did those in LA, did like semifinals, then a North American finals, and then the global finals I casted in Dubai. And so that was in, I think, November, end of November, early December of 2018.
Oh, okay, gotcha. How was just like the back, I don't know if you can talk about it too much, but how was the background scene of like PUBG Mobile, and like how they were structured in terms of like you casting, the tournament organization, how they did things, just what are some things you noticed about the organization of events, being someone that was involved with the casting?
Sure. I mean, the way it typically works is like the developers like, yo, we're going to do a tournament, and then they hire out an esports agency. You'll see orgs like ESL, VSPN, Star Ladder. They'll get involved, and they'll kind of take over the hosting of the tournament, the organization of the tournament, and their administrators and their staff will actually work on staffing it out. And then, of course, they're responsible to Tencent, who owns PUBG. They're responsible to Tencent to get budget approved, to approve talent or whatever. So they go do the legwork of recruiting these people, kind of getting the lineup set. They may have input from Tencent, like, yo, we want this guy and this guy, go get them. We don't care what it costs. Or, we have X amount of money, and, you all figure out who best would work from a talent standpoint. And so typically you'll see a host, you'll see a couple commentators. They've tried different arrangements as far as like having analysts after the games, where commentators will handle like during the gameplay, analysts will kind of take it after the gameplay, and then there's the desk where the host will kind of be managing the flow of the show. He's got like the little thing in his ear, talks to the producers and whatnot, who are shockingly enough speaking to us in Korean or Chinese or Thai. Yeah, dude, it was freaking bananas, man. Like the shows that we have done, I don't think people realize how heroic of an effort. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but we're getting scripts delivered 12 hours before the show goes live to the world. And it's 31 pages of broken English, like Google Translate. And I'm just like, no, not reading this.
Oh my God.
I'm literally going to hand this back to you. I want an outline. Like, tell me how the flow of the show is going to go. Give me a rundown. Yeah. We will this is what you hired us for, right? Like, we can talk. We know how the game works. We know the backstories of the players and tournaments and whatnot. Just tell us what graphics are going to be coming on the screen. We'll handle it from there. And so there was a compromise of, how these shows operated and worked. But man, oh man, sometimes it's difficult with the language barrier, with the cultures. We doesn't always see eye to eye. Like, to give you an example, one of the teams that won or whatever, I think it was a Thai team, there wasn't enough translators in place that could speak the appropriate languages. So we had the producers in our ears, which spoke Korean and very, very minimal English, yelling at us. Like, while we're trying to speak, it'd be like if you had somebody in your ear right now going, and we're just like, you're trying to like keep straight face, locked on with the camera, talking to each other. So distracting. It's insane. Jeez. And so we've got that going on in our ear. And then, we'll be like, okay, we're going to do this next. And so we would say something to cue somebody that's listening to us, a producer, and it would go from English to Korean, Korean to Chinese. And then, like, say there's people down on the stage, Chinese to Thai, Thai back to Chinese, Chinese to Korean, Korean to English, all in the span of like, we're just trying to get very basic information. Like, are we doing this or are we doing this? And it's just like normal, like an English production would be just like, boom, have your answer. We're moving forward. Yeah. And then this took like minutes, you know what I mean? To like just get basic stuff back and forth. So it was really crazy behind the scenes on some of these productions, just trying to like operate in a way that wasn't a complete train wreck.
Was there so for these events, were the casters anyone that spoke other languages, or was it just you and like another English like co-caster or whatever? Like, what was the reasoning for talking in other languages? So they could communicate, or like, That just doesn't make sense
it's
to me.
for them because, like, for example, Tencent, that's a Chinese company, right? They're based in China, Shenzhen, Shanghai, and they are comfortable hiring people that they know are going to be able to do a good job. A lot of times those companies are based out of China. They're based out of Korea. Korea is an esports hub in the world, so they have a lot of experience with events like this. So VSPN is a common, company that they're using. But at the same time, it's like, they don't necessarily have insight as to the West and how things are done here. But more importantly, that the people on staff, they're not bilingual for the most part. They're all like operating in Korean, which no fault of theirs. It's just difficult when you hire English casters that don't speak Korean or Chinese. It's difficult to try to communicate and run a smooth show when we're there to like speak to, the English speaking audience. It's very, very difficult. Like when the back end is like none of them speak English. So it was more for them, just as the normal, practice for them. And they've got like one or two people that may not even be the person for the role, where they're like trying to communicate with us as best as possible. So again, no fault on any of them. And it sucks because, I felt like there was one girl that was like trying so hard and she was taking care of us. She was great, right? But she was not a decision maker. So like she couldn't like give us an answer. So she had to like always try to go find something. But it was always like something very high stress where we needed a quick turnaround on something. And it was like people would get frustrated or, whatever. And it was like literally no one's fault. We're all just trying to put on the best show possible. And, it was like, it just sucks that we can't like communicate the way we would like to. It was a very strange dynamic for sure.
Yeah, I experienced that a little bit like while I was in China. I didn't go for any kind of casting, but constantly they'd want us to record content and like they'd ask us to do stuff. And it was difficult, that language barrier for sure. So in terms of like mobile esports and especially PUBG Mobile, what are some directions that you see mobile moving, especially in the shooter genre? Because like Brawl Stars, Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, games like that, I feel like a phone and an iPad and just different like things that you use don't really make a massive difference on the quality of play. Whereas in shooter games, like there's this massive debate about, phones, iPads, things like that. What are some things that you see the direction of mobile kind of shifting to? And then also, do you think the iPad decision, was that a decision by Tencent or the I don't know what it's called, the esports host, or what are those companies called, like VSPN?
Sure, tournament organizers.
Tournament organizers, yeah. So yeah, just what's some things you see about the direction of mobile esports? In terms of
I don't know the exact decision that was made or who made it. I'm sure that the tournament organizers have recommendations that they provide to Tencent, but ultimately it's Tencent's responsibility to make the final decisions on policy.
Yeah.
So they're going to decide, yes, we're going to use iPads. No, we're not going to use iPads. I like the standardization as much as possible, but like then you get into the weeds of like, hey, iPads are mobile, aren't they? And then you look at like, people at Apple saying, well, like, no, like most of the people that use iPads just use them at home, sitting on their couch or whatever. And it's like this very weird debate right now. And like, I personally I'm not like one side or the other, but like I see the need for standardization because, you have to be able to like have a level playing field because regardless of what that looks like, whether it's a tournament with all iPads or a tournament with all phones or a tournament with freaking controllers, like whatever, like as long as everybody's on the same playing field, you just can't have a scenario where one of these devices or, contraptions or whatever, you can't have one providing a significant advantage that other people are not able to then take advantage of themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's when it gets a little bit sketchy. And it's like even to the point like in PUBG where the bugs that exist on these different platforms, different operating systems have different bugs. Like the team that develops Android is different from the team that develops iOS. Different things can be happening, like whether recoil patterns are the same. And I'm not trying to cause controversy by saying like recoil is not the same, but like it feels different. I've played a lot on Android. I played a lot on iOS. There are differences in the game to the point where certain guns are much better on one platform versus the other. iPads for a while, you could see through walls because buildings didn't render in the same way on an iPad as it did on a phone. And so it's like, that's very interesting. So clearly, like you've got people like trying to exploit those types of weaknesses by using the iPads. And it was very, very weird. So as far as like where I see things going, I think you're going to see more and more tournament organizers and developers trying to standardize the way they play.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think anybody has clarity right now on like what that standardized process should look like or what that environment looks like. I think I kind of applaud Tencent for taking a step in a direction. I don't know that it's right or wrong, honestly, but like I like the fact that they tried something and they're able to like gather feedback from it, like from the community, and figure out like, hey, was this successful or was it not? Because not every tournament has to be like this. Not every thing moving forward is no iPads, right? Like I don't think that that's a permanent decision that's being made, but I definitely think it's something that they're testing out and trying to gather data on from a tangible like big tournament. And I don't know. I kind of am in favor of it. But at the same time, I feel for the iPad guys that grew up playing on an iPad, that are used to playing on it, because clearly, playing claw on a smaller device is far different than having a big screen flat on your table, especially for the dudes that are on like 12.9 iPad Pros. Like, woof, that's a TV, bro. Like, I remember being at one of the LA tournaments, man. We had the team there. We took I don't know where my freaking device is at, but like we took six different phones and set them on top of an iPad Pro, and there was still room to spare. And I'm just like, so you're saying like guys are 600% larger, like targets are that much bigger, the precision is that much better. Like clearly it's a better way to play as long as you have the dexterity to be able to control that. So yeah, there you go. That's just a standard iPad Air, I'm guessing, with a phone next to it. And I mean, the difference is crazy.
Yeah. So if you guys are wondering, mine's the iPad Pro 10.5, and this is an 8 Plus. So if you compared like a normal standard iPhone to the 12.9, it's even crazier.
Sure. I'd like to say one more thing too. Like I saw Ferg in the comments saying iPad specific tournaments, and like I agree to an extent, right? I think iPad tournaments are great for iPad players, but I also don't think, as the scene as a whole, like as the mobile scene is trying to make a name for itself, as trying to carve out market share in the esports, not only sponsorship and business development side of things, I don't know that we have the size of audience right now from a viewer perspective to be able to split our viewer base and to be able to split our fan base. So, if you look at like this huge, tournaments being put on, there's millions of dollars going into it, and it's not going to do like massive views, right? Like you could have somebody like Ninja or Shroud or whatever do one stream and probably do 100 times the views of, what this huge tournament with millions invested into it. So we have to be able to show the people that are supporting us as an industry and as like, a gaming people, mobile, we have to be able to show them that, hey, your dollars aren't going to go to waste, and we are going to make progress. And this is the infancy of something that's ultimately going to be bigger. But the problem is, if we split that viewer base that's already kind of meager at best, we split it, then it's like, God, now we have even further to go. And we've got the fans of iPad players are not going to be interested in what's going on the mobile, phone side, and vice versa. And then it's like you're almost hamstringing yourself as an industry from being able to grow. So I always look at things from like a very like end game perspective and try to work back from that. And ultimately, like, we have to come together as a people and really demonstrate that, there's a lot of people interested in this kind of thing. We just have to be able to surface the content successfully and, put it in front of a lot of eyeballs and be able to demonstrate that with, metrics and stats after the fact. So it's a very difficult problem, and there's no clean solution right now. And so I think just more experimentation to see like what pops off, what works, I think is going to be necessary. And I don't think there's necessarily one right answer right now.
Yeah, and I also think it's almost the fault of the developers in a way. I think, as you were talking about, there was the issue with the invisible walls and stuff like that. So that's one thing that, like, in a competitive balance shouldn't even be there at all. But I do think there's ways that they could possibly in the future balance a phone and an iPad. So actually in like ROS, the iPad has less aim assist. So that's just like one possible solution. Like, I wouldn't doubt if in the future we see things that like make the iPad and the phones, or just tablets and phones, more like balanced. Because obviously, like, there is a player base with iPads and tablets and things like that. Right. And I do think another thing that affects it too, as I saw in your video where you talked about PMCO, is sponsorships. Like, right now, Apple is just not investing into the mobile scene competitively, but like esports at all.
Sure.
So I don't think we're going to be seeing tablets being a sponsored device for years, if ever.
Sure. And I mean, not to talk bad about, tablets or this or that, but like, other companies have tablets, but quite frankly, like nothing tablet wise works as good as an iPad. iPad's been the industry, it's been the dominant for a while, and I've used other, tablets, and they're just not the same. Phones is a different story. Phones, there's a lot of great phones out there, a lot of great manufacturers. And, I think that the argument can be made that Apple is no longer the top dog when it comes to the smartphone. I think it's up there, it's top tier, but it's definitely not like as cut and dry as it was 5 years ago, where it was like iPhone or nothing. Everybody's kind of closed the gap on that, and some have even, in my opinion, surpassed the iPhone. But tablets, speaking of those, like iPad or nothing, basically. Yeah, it's kind of like the way I view that right now. There's so many different like combinations of things, but holy cow, dude, like I'm trying to think of the difficulty on the programming side as far as game balance is concerned, to be able to tune things differently based off of device. There's so many like different factors that go into it already. But I'm trying to think of like how, it could work. You could definitely do that, but like, would it cheapen the experience on a phone if you knew that like, you're essentially getting auto aimed for or whatever? Like, it's fun. Like, there's a weird like dynamic here because like on one hand, like I have auto aim on PUBG, right? I don't notice it hardly ever, and when I do, it's very annoying because it's not where I'm trying to shoot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so should I even have it on? Like, I feel like psychologically, like it should be helping, right? Yeah. But I don't really notice it that much, if at all. And when I do notice it, it's like, yo, I want to move the crosshair to the right, and it's holding over here to this other guy. I don't want that. So
that happens a lot when I play.
That's kind of like, really?
Yeah. Well, in the game that I play, the way that aim assist works is it pulls towards enemies as opposed to like slows down your sensitivity. So like in Call of Duty, the way aim assist or aim whatever it's called works is when your crosshair goes over an enemy, it slows down, so it's not really like pulling to it.
Oh, I see.
So often when I snipe in my game, it'll like pull even though I'm trying to kind of lead them, you know what I mean? So it does get really painful sometimes. But I wouldn't doubt like if I think you're definitely right though, it'd be hard to figure out a way to balance the devices in terms of like aim assist or whatever they do. Sure. I definitely think there's ways to do it, and even if they were to do it perfectly, it would be difficult to say, hey, now an iPad is at the same place.
I don't want to rule anything out though, you know what I mean? Like if somebody want to try that, go for it, like you got my full blessing. Like, let's try to come up with an innovative solution that allows our community's best players, right? Like I want our best, most competitive people to have a light shine on them and be like, yo, these guys are dope. They're super good at the game. They're good ambassadors or whatever. It's a shame that they would have to take a back seat or be relegated because of the device that they play on. So I want a way to have inclusion for anybody that their play warrants, like being, attention given to them. But at the same time, like you have to have a level playing field if you want ultimately the esports scene to be successful. You can't just have, a team like, cause then it's about like constructing rosters based off of hardware. And it's like, that's stupid. That's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. Whereas like PC, like sure, people like make the arguments of like, mouse and keyboard. Yes, there's different components inside of different computers that make it better or worse to play on, more RAM, better processor, etc. But at the same time, it's like everybody can like upgrade to a certain point, and then it's like kind of capped, to where like the margin of like improvement is very small, like very, it's not a huge deal. Whereas like on tablets and phones, there's a much bigger gap there, like that you're gaining one way or the other. So that gap has to close, and who knows, maybe that happens in time just naturally with developers and hardware getting more and more powerful, games getting better and better to the point where there isn't that gap. Like maybe things are just learned over time to where the games can be more competitive as esports.
Yeah, for sure. We also got we have a question coming from Complexity Matt. Do you know him? Mobile Matt is his Twitter handle, I believe. Powerbang, do you know?
Yeah, sorry, what was the question again? I got distracted for half a second reading your chat.
His question was, how healthy do you think the mobile esports sponsorship landscape is now, and what needs to happen for it next to grow? Or what needs to happen next for it to grow?
I definitely feel like the market is there. What we're offering to the market is not there, if that makes sense. We as a community and as an industry have to be able to provide the value that we ultimately think that we're worth, because right now I feel like as a mobile scene, we're putting the cart before the horse in a lot of scenarios where you've got a group of 4 guys that are really good at the game, and it's like, yo, hey, we're really good, sponsor us. But like at the end of the day, these sponsorships are coming because of the exposure that you can offer, for the brand reinforcement that you lend to whatever brand is sponsoring you. If you're kind of a non-existent person on social media, or you don't have a following, the value that you're providing in return to the brand is very low. And right now it's and again, I'm just like calling it like it is. It sucks because like, especially in the West, in North America specifically, we don't have a lot of like really big influencers or creators or like pro players. There are very, very few people that have cracked kind of the mold, have broken out, and have a following now to be able to leverage into like eyeballs and such to sell to brands.
Yeah.
So that's something that, I'm very experienced with. I deal with a lot of brands. I deal with a lot of companies, and, I've formed multiple like long-term partnerships, long-term deals, sponsorships, etc. That's something that I personally am doing and have had success with. So I know the market's there. Like, I know that it's possible to have very lucrative contracts come in. But again, I'm selling myself, right? Like, where I know what my numbers are. I know the reach that I have. I know the influence that I have. Not everybody is in that position, unfortunately. And I wish that they were, because God, that would make things so much easier to grow, And so part of my vision is to kind of help the community as a whole, like lift up, to try to shine a light on different people, to help different creators grow, to ultimately bring more value to the mobile scene. Not just me, because what am I going to do by myself? Like, there has to be an arch enemy. There has to be other teams to fight. There has to be a community and like an actual industry, a storyline to be able to sell that. So I feel like the potential is definitely there. When I get in the room with a company and I have a compelling story to lay down for them and numbers and metrics to back that up, I'm getting yeses every time. I'm able to close deals. So I feel like it's definitely there, but we have a long way to go. From a creator, from an entertainer, and from a pro player standpoint, to captivate the audience, to give us the attention that we need in order to like actually turn around and get sponsorships from that.
Yeah, and I feel like another thing too with like tournaments and things. Also, we're running low on time. Well, I mean, we're a little after now. Just a quick question. About how much longer do you think
I got an extra 15? If I don't know what your timeline is or whatever, but I got till 1:30 before my next appointment.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, so in terms of sponsorships, I definitely think with mobile esports, it's tough to like find tournament sponsors and things, just because when you have like PC esports, you have a PC, right? You got tons of parts that you can customize. You got headsets, you got mouses, keyboards, you got all kinds of different sponsor potential. Whereas now with mobile, it's like you have your device and like your headset maybe, and then maybe the provider. So we're seeing like AT&T sponsor, we're seeing Samsung sponsor. We haven't seen any like headset companies or anything. So it's really hard to see these like typical gaming sponsors come into the scene, just because there is no real thing that they can promote inside. So I think that's one thing, like the convenience of mobile is what makes it grow and what's just great to everyone. But it's also kind of limiting us, because as we're talking about with like the device limitations, like you can't really customize an iPad. You can't say, okay, I have an iPad, but it doesn't meet the requirements. Let's just tweak a few things. It's like, no, you got to go get a brand new device. It's just, this convenience is both hurting and helping mobile esports in a way.
I think you're right in your assessment of equipment, but there's so many different partnerships that make sense, and that's something that I've kind of identified on my business front. Is like, I'm partnered with OnePlus, for example. It's my phone of choice. They're dope though, dude. Like, no joke, not trying to plug. I don't work with people that I don't use or like. You know what I mean? Like, I get pitches from all the other brands, whatever, except for Apple. They don't do crap for anybody. That's but at the same time, like I looked at it and I was like, dude, this is sick. Like I definitely want to work with them. So created that partnership, and now it's like, okay, phones unlock, right? But like I'm looking at the different sectors out there, and I'm like, yo, there's energy drinks, there's headsets, there's general lifestyle, there's food delivery services, there's all kinds of different like little niches that I've identified that,
that's true. Yeah,
I can provide a tangible value to you that, it makes sense. Like the overlap of our lives, it really it just works. There's microphones for content creators. I could work with, Electro Voice or Shure or, Blue microphones or Audio Technica or whatever. There's different, PC sponsors that I think could be interested in the mobile space, because while it's not inherently, mobile is mobile, there's also the fact that we're gamers, and a lot of people have different platforms that they play on. So I mean, I definitely feel like there's an opportunity for some overlap there. It's not going to be as easy of a decision, For example, if you look at a PC guy, like clearly all of the components of the PCs, like the headphones, the gaming chairs, all that's very, very obvious, good partnerships. And I think you can leverage those same deals with people on mobile, but maybe not as early. I think you'd have to have a pretty tremendous following or impact to be able to get those types of deals. So I think it's definitely possible. I don't want to say like, yo, because we're mobile, we can't do business. I don't agree with that at all. However, I fully realize like what you're saying, like, there are some additional obstacles because we have less, I guess, things to play with or do that can enhance our gameplay.
Yeah, for sure. And touching on that too, like the things that can enhance our gameplay. So I feel like triggers right now is one thing that's widely discussed between like pros and then casuals. They don't really discuss it, but they're involved in the conversation. What's your opinion on triggers and just overall like that discussion?
I think triggers are great. I personally have no problem at all with triggers. I know there's been like controversy in the community or whatever lately that I don't care about. Like I don't address any sort of BS that happens because, like, again, positive vibes, man. Like I'm about like people that are respectful and whatever. But at the same time, like triggers, no issues at all. Again, what it comes back to for me is from a professional standpoint, from an esports standpoint, level playing field. So if you're going to do triggers for everybody. And that may not make sense from a popular demand standpoint for professional players. But as far as casual players are concerned, knock yourself out. Get those triggers, baby. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if that's what makes you feel good to play, if that's what enhances your gameplay to a point where it's fun for you and it's satisfying for you, do it. You know what I mean? Like that. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Again, like it's not deep for me. I don't think you're an evil, vile person if you use triggers or if you use a Bluetooth control. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't necessarily feel that it provides a huge advantage one way or another if a person is using an apparatus of whatever sort. It's different and it may work better for that person. And I fully identify that. But I think as a whole, it depends on how you hold your device, how your hands sit, like what your, level, you know what I mean? There's so many like variables that we don't know on each individual basis. So like I don't have an issue at all with them. So that's my answer.
I would even say too that like triggers are not an advantage at all over claw. I would say claw, you have much more versatility too. So that's why you'll never see a pro player say, okay, I play 4-finger claw, but I want to go buy triggers. Not just because like it's not allowed, but because there's just no real reason. But I do think we, as a community, and one thing that I've kind of seen from the pro community is they really want to push them away to the side and say, hey, those are evil, those are cheating, like these are not good. And I don't want to see the direction of mobile be, hey, let's favor what the pros want and not like allow the casuals to be comfortable, because the triggers are really all about comfort. Like I recently had a friend over and we were going to play COD Mobile, the beta, and I was like, yo, you should play 4 fingers. He's like, no, dude, I'm not getting those fingers involved. I'll just play thumbs. I was like, okay, I actually have a pair of triggers because I have some like really cheap dinky ones over here. I was like, let me throw these on and then you can play 4 fingers. He's like, oh yeah, cool, perfect. Because he's used to playing a controller. And I see a lot of people come from, Call of Duty, whatever game they play on, PS4, Xbox. And when they switch over to mobile, instantly they're like, this is all, I have 2 fingers, I can move a joystick and everything else is done with my right thumb. And I feel like that's just way too difficult. And I feel like some people get really good.
100%. I was gonna make the same point. Like I've got right here, triggers, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, dope, sick product. Basically what you have is a really good way to like bridge and transition into claw play. Like if that's what you're like going to try to like, get to eventually, but it's just not comfortable and you don't want to try it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like everyone is kind of used to the L1 R1 setup on like a PS4 or any PlayStation or Xbox controller, right? You've always had the buttons on top. That's a natural, comfortable feeling, and I feel like having those on a phone, like you're good. Like you can, you know what I mean? Like there's no, I guess, awkwardness, I guess, to trying to like get all your fingers on the screen. But like honestly, like when you take a step back and look at it, like having those buttons on the top, you're like a half inch from playing claw, like you're used to using those fingers now. And I feel like that could actually help as a training tool, kind of get used to, working, I guess, your fingers and thumbs independently. And that's something that I might even try to do in the future, because I am one of those dumb guys that I'm like, yeah, I'm not really comfortable, like, expanding my horizons. I'm kind of stuck in the mold. Like, I don't know. So we'll see what happens in the future, man. But like, I'm down for whatever. And as far as like vilifying or like saying it's evil, I think that's BS. I think people should realize that, like, there's bigger fights out in this world than like somebody using triggers or not. Like, honestly, who gives a crap? Like, if it makes you happy, knock yourselves out. That's my stand.
Yeah, and just a part of that too is I think pros often forget that the casuals are like who make the money for the game, and like benefiting casuals is like one of the biggest things for a game to do because they need to bring in more new players, and new players are always going to be casual. And I think
as I mean, like in game development, like the loudest, most vocal audience sector is the pros. It's the high level. It's the sweaties, and they want things done their way, but they got to realize that they're less than 1% of their overall player base. Like, think of our North American scene, right? You can think of several people that are very outspoken, very loud about like the way things need to be or this or that. But at the same time, like how many of those people can you think of? Not many. How many pros are actually in the scene competing in these tournaments? How many teams are there? And 4 people per team, like, is there 50? Is there 100 teams? Like, do the math, it's like 500 or less players. Very vocal, very present on social media because many of these guys are trying to do this for a career. But then, like, zoom out a little bit. How many people play this game every month? 50 million? Like, how big of a percentage are these, like, very, high level people? How big of a representation of the player base are they actually? And so that's what the developers are looking at is like, what we're doing for the game may not serve, the high end. And like, I'm hopeful for a game that takes the high end into account because the esports scene is used as a marketing tool to attract entry level players. That's kind of the ideal world where it's like you're servicing that high end crowd by giving them a portion of what they want. But realizing like you can't make a game that's so technical and so advanced that it alienates your casual players because again, that's where 90% plus of your revenue is coming from, and also where 99.9% of your player base is, and you got to keep them happy or else you're not going to have a player base.
100% agree. It's finding that balance between giving the pros and the competitive scene like what it needs, and then also being able to balance the casuals and the newer players and bringing in new players as well.
Sure. Another thing I just thought of on the triggers and stuff, that's to go back to the point right before that on not having things to be able to, do for support or sponsorship or whatever. Like that's something that could help support the community. You know what I mean? Like if they were accepted and you know what I mean? Like it's something that like if you were to see these companies start popping off and selling, I know for 100% fact that they're going to give back and support the communities that are helping them grow.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, think Scuff controllers, I think it was, back in the COD days, right? Like, that was the exact same thing as triggers.
That wasn't a thing, like, when they first came out. There was, like, whoa.
Yeah, I think that's the best parallel.
Like, it's the move, Like, that's what every pro has a Scuff controller,
Yeah, I wouldn't, like, doubt at all if, like, that. I think it was MGC, is that what you held up earlier? The mobile gaming or whatever it's called? Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
They sent me a prototype, and it's I'm impressed, honestly. Like, there was no... it's just literally a glass cover, not glass, but the screen cover material. Yeah. And there's sensors in that, so you don't actually have triggers that are blocking your screen. Like that's how it works. Carrying around like a normal phone case, and when you turn it sideways, there's buttons on top. It's like it's dope. Like so, I'll definitely be trying that out when they hit production.
Yeah. I definitely am hoping to see things like that, and just I'm curious to see how the whole development of mobile esports goes and how sponsors get in it and how they are integrated, things like that for sure. But yeah, I'd say I don't want to waste any more of your time because you're
not wasting my time, man. I would have said no if I thought you were wasting my time. But
that's a good point.
All good, bro. You have anything else you want to cover? Any hard hitting topics?
Chat. Do we have anything before we let him go? Brush over the thing I wrote up.
What's up, Julius? Minecraft Pro extraordinaire.
To be honest, I mean, we covered most of what I wanted to go over.
Sick, man.
Really quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, how has Facebook been for you in terms of the viewers? Like the viewers and the platform.
The hard-hitting questions.
Yeah.
Facebook's been a very interesting dynamic. Viewers have been great. The community has been great. I love my Banger Nation. I love my peeps. No regrets at all. Mm-hmm. I recently just re-signed with them. So like I work with platforms, on a contractual basis, more or less. Mm-hmm. And that requires me to produce a specific amount of hours of content or more. And the current contract that I'm on requires me to spend a substantial amount of time, more so than before. And there's also like I can't talk in detail about my contract just because of legal reasons. I wish I could, because I think a lot of it's crap, to be honest with you. Yeah. But at the same time, like it gets to the point where if I get to a certain point in the month and I feel like I can't hit hours, there's no point in streaming. Aside from like just being there to connect with my audience. But as far as like profitable ways to spend my time, it completely exits the realm of like anything that would be intelligent or smart for me to do. Yeah. And so part of that is what you're seeing this month from me. Like literally, I'm probably just going to take off until July 1st and we'll see, having a nice little break. Yeah. But at the same time, like I have so much stuff. And that's the thing that's so difficult about like contracts and streaming obligations for somebody like me is I have multiple businesses. I am always on the go, traveling around the world, doing events, doing consulting, meeting this developer, doing that deal, whatever, all over the place. And I love streaming. Like I love being there and I love sharing time with my community and having a blast and whatnot. But like I have to be able to have a flexible schedule to where, I stream when I have time. And I'm at the point right now where I'm streaming in the middle of the freaking night, like 2 a.m, for hours and hours in order to meet hours. And that's just stupid. And that's like not a way that for me is very motivating to like want to show up, because like when I show up, I want it to be on my terms and I want to be able to give my best to my viewers and to my audience. And sometimes I feel like it's not disingenuous because like I want to be there, but like truth be told, like sometimes I wouldn't have started streaming in the first place if it weren't for like a requirement. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I want when I get on to be because I wanted to be there. And like that's becoming harder and harder to do with some of the terms that I have to abide by. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the future holds, but like all I know is like I love my viewers. I know a lot of them feel the same towards me, and I appreciate that. And regardless of what I do and where, I just know that, I always appreciate the support, and I got a lot of respect for you. But as far as the platform, getting back to that, it's been pretty good. A lot of issues, hiccups as of late, as far as like technical stuff going on. Yeah. But over the course of the last year, generally speaking, it's been pretty decent, and the viewership numbers have been really good. Like, I average between 1,500 and 3,000 concurrents on most streams, and peak somewhere in the 5 to 6K range on viewers, which is that's crazy. You know what I mean? For mobile games, like that doesn't happen in North America. So really pleased with like the the reach, I guess. But I guess that's what you can expect when you have a platform with 2.4 billion user accounts created. They're just trying to find ways to surface the content to people that actually want to consume gaming. Yeah, for sure. We also hit 1:30, and I know you got to go. So chat, hope you guys all enjoyed Powerbang. Thank you for coming on. I learned a ton, actually. You had a lot of insight for sure. Thanks, man. I enjoyed being here. It was super dope, and I like, honestly, dude, like I've been thinking about doing a similar podcast for a long time. Like the last year and a half, I've been kicking around the idea. But like for me, I always am thinking like end goal, right? Like I know who my first like 8 guests would be, but then after that, what's the plan, And so like I've never gotten started because of that. So I was really happy to see like you kind of take the reins, start like doing something, creating some content that people can like come watch, get educated, I guess, get some backstory. Because the thing I like most about podcasts and like, discussions is like you get to see like the person behind the creator, like for sure. Yeah. You get to have like I guess a perspective that maybe you didn't have before, because you see who they are on camera, but you don't get to like talk with them, I guess, if that makes sense. And then also a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff that aren't privy to or wouldn't know like comes up. And whether that's me kind of bringing that to light or other people, it's super interesting. So thank you for like taking your time and just taking the initiative to create The Nest. Pretty dope, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I also like what you said, the person behind the creator. I don't want to like go too in depth because this is the end, but like that's a really good statement, because often the person and the creator are kind of two different people. Like you're a brand as well as like being yourself. I don't want to go in depth, but I like that statement a lot.
For sure. Yeah, no, maybe next time.
Yeah. Yeah, but once again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thank you to Powerbang. If you guys want to follow all his social medias, I'm sure most of you guys already follow, but they're like right below his name. Powerbang, if you point to your right shoulder, I think it'll be like right on the money. Like right there. Pretty close. If you guys want to follow his socials. My socials are here. The Nest is socials are on the very bottom left of the stream. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you later. Peace.
Sounds good. Take care, man.
All right, see you, man.